Shireen here, and welcome back to Video Editing 101. Today we're talking all about how to edit videos for TikTok. And in even more exciting news, if you haven't heard, Adobe Max is kicking off tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, and there's going to be a keynote at 9 a.m. Definitely tune in for that one. It's going to be so exciting. There's going to be a bunch of sessions all about what's new, not only in Premiere, but across Adobe. So definitely tune in. And if you haven't signed up yet, let me show you how. So if you go over to max.adobe.com, this is the website that you're going to see. And there's this button right here, this black one, and it says register for free. So you can just press that, sign up for Max, and then from there you can start building out your schedule. So you can go through the sessions, you can see who's speaking. Fun fact, I'm going to be one of the speakers, and I'll show you my session so you can add it. But if you do want to tune into the other live sessions, you can head over to max.adobe.com/community, and this is where you can find all the Adobe live streams. So check that out on this page. And then if you do want to add my session, which you definitely should, because it's all about what's new in Premiere Pro and After Effects, y'all, this stuff is gonna blow your mind. So sign up for this. So if you just go and search for either FT4 or type in Shireen when you go to sessions, this is what is gonna pop up, and you can add it to your schedule. Down here, you see I've already added it, so it says scheduled. And this session is going to be on Wednesday, October 27th from 1 to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. So check that out. Now let's dive into Premiere and we can get started with TikTok. But before I do that, let's see who we've got in the chat today. So we've got Wade, LJ, Demas, hello everyone. We've also got Philip from Texas. We've also got Corey in the chat. We've got Ahmad. Exciting! And if you guys are just tuning in now, make sure to pop in the chat and let me know where you are tuning in from. So let's start off with the first thing you gotta know about editing for TikTok, and that is how to create this vertical aspect ratio. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. If you go over to File, and I'm gonna give this a sec to load. There we go, File, and then Sequence. It's gonna bring up this box, right? And this is where you can go through and you can pick what sequence you want. There's a bunch of presets, and usually what I do is I'll go into digital SLR and 1080, and then choose the one with 24 frames per second. Now this is like your typical YouTube video, right? But we don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is go over to settings right here, and within video, we are going to change the frame size from 1920 by 1080 to 1080 by 1920. And now what that has done, it has given us a 9:16 aspect ratio. So we can save that as a preset. So next time, if we want to go and create a vertical video, you don't have to go through and adjust all these settings all over again. You can just choose your preset and be good to go. So in order to do that, if you go down here to the left, click on where it says Save Preset. It'll bring up this box, and you can give your preset a name and a description. So you could name this something like vertical. You could even toss in the aspect ratio if you wanted, so 9:16, that way you know, and you could press OK, and it'll create that as a preset. I've already done this, so let me show you what would happen if you've already made it as a preset. So if you scroll down here, within your available presets, it'll show up under custom. So you see I've made one for portrait, for square, for vertical, and this is really great even if you're editing for Instagram, right? So you can make one for the portrait and for the square. But since we're doing TikTok here, we're going to choose this one, the vertical 9:16. So from here, you can create a new sequence. So I'm just going to give this a name, and I will call this Clone Demo. And I'll press OK. So now you'll see within this program monitor right here at the top right, you see that we've created that vertical aspect ratio, and it's that easy. So now what we want to do is start adding in some clips. So for this first video, what I'm going to do is create a clone video. So if we go over to this sequence right here, I'll just scrub through really quickly, and you can see the general vibe that we're going for. So it'll look something like this. Picking an outfit, pretty cool. So what we're going to start off with is our footage. So I'm going to scroll over here to clone, and let's just go through the footage. I know that the first few clips, I was just trying to figure out placement and all that. So if you are filming this yourself, something you want to keep in mind is keeping enough space between you and where your clone is going to be. That way, when you go to cut these clips together, it'll be a bit more seamless. Now, something else that you do want to keep in mind is the lighting. So if you're filming on a manual mode, for example, if you're filming on your camera or you're filming within the camera in Premiere Rush, you can go and toggle your manual settings so that everything will be consistent. But if you're just shooting on auto, like I did in this case, your lighting might change, and that could be a bit of an issue, and I'll show you how you can make some adjustments to fix that. So let's go through and we're going to just choose our clips first. So I know these, we're just testing this out. I was really looking for my hand movement here. So around here, you see how it's kind of crossing the middle a little bit too much. In my head, I'm like, maybe that'll be an issue when I go to edit. So I should do another take and just try to be a little bit more aware of that. So I think this was the take where I tried to keep my hand a little bit more still. So we'll just go with this one. So I'm going to drag this in. And by the way, this is something that you might get. It'll say clip mismatch warning. So it'll say this clip does not match the sequence's settings. And it'll ask you change sequence to match the clip's settings. So you have two options here. You can either change your sequence settings or you can keep your existing settings. So the reason why we're getting this message is because these videos, since they were filmed on my iPhone, they were filmed at a frame rate of 29.97 frames per second. Whereas this sequence was set to 24 frames per second. So we'll just go and change the sequence settings. So we'll do change sequence settings. And now it'll be set to a frame rate of 29.97 frames per second. And that's fine. For Instagram, that's fine. So now that we have our clip, I'm going to zoom in on the timeline. And to do that with a keyboard shortcut, what you can do is just press the /. Or is it a backward slash? Which slash is that? Forward? The one that goes like this. I think that's /. Let me know in the chat. So we have that. Now what we want to do is go through and select our clones. So this one right here is my first clone. And what I'm looking for here is when I start to enter the frame and then exit the frame. So around right here, you'll see there's nothing going on, and then I start to enter the frame. So that's where I know I want this clip to begin. Okay, Eric Met is saying it is backward, Wade is saying it is forward, but if we're going based on what it looks like on my keyboard, it's the one that Eric Met has written, so backwards. I think. Let's figure this out. I'm pretty sure it's the backwards one. All right, so for this clip, you see I've set my in point to right here when I begin to enter the frame, and then the out point is when I exit. And if you're wondering how to set these in and out points, you press I to set an in point. So let's say, for example, I want to have an in point right here. I'll press I on my keyboard, and now you'll see that in point has shifted over. And let's say I want the out point to be around here. I'll press O, and now the out point has also expanded over. I'm just going to press Command Z to get rid of that, and let's drag this into our timeline. So we can do that by pressing this icon right here, drag video only, and I'll bring it over. Let's see, Wade is saying that this is backwards. So I think that's backwards. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Thanks, y'all. So we've got this, and this is on our second track right here, because what we want to do is overlay this so that we can clip it, you know, add a little mask, and be able to see what's underneath. So let's add in all the other clips, and we'll come back and we'll do that. So the next clip that I have, so this one I also did a few takes for, and similarly to before, what I'm looking for is being far out enough so that when I go to cut these clips, I'm not cutting myself off at any point. So the first time that I did this, I had this jacket draped over my shoulders. And when I went to walk out of frame, you can see right here, it's like, imagine you have this line right here, right? This imaginary line just going down the middle. This jacket is crossing over that line. And I knew that when I went to go to edit, that was going to make things just more complicated than I wanted them to be, so I ended up redoing this. So I did this another time, and I tried to be a little bit more still, and you'll see as I'm walking out, I just went over to the side, and I thought that looked a little bit odd. So I was like, okay, maybe let's not do that. Let's try to match what I was doing in that first clip, where it's walking out of frame more at the angle, not just like sliding out. So I did it again. And this time I decided to actually put the jacket on to keep it more compact and on me so that when I want to go turn right here, I'm not crossing that imaginary line. So just keep these things in mind when you are also filming your TikToks. So now we'll drag this onto the timeline right there. And I'll just press the backward key again to just bring everything back in so we can see what we're doing. And then the last clip that we need is this one right here. So for this one, same deal. I just walked in, but then for this one, I just stood at the end because the other clone decided to pick this outfit. So we'll drag this into the timeline and then we can go through and make some adjustments. So as you can see right now, just press the backwards key again, just to condense everything, bring it back to the timeline. Right now, the clone shots up top on the second track are way too long, and we need to find a way to make them shorter because our other clone right here, let me just hide this track. This is as long as this clip is, right? We can extend it out a little bit more if we wanted to, but for the most part, we're looking at about a 10-second clip. So we need to find a way to slow, or not slow, but speed these up. So I'm thinking, let's just try to speed them up to about 150%, and we'll just go from there. So we'll do 150. Do this again, just right-clicking, going over to speed duration. Change this speed to 150 as well. And then I'll do the same thing here. So now I'm just going to drag these over so that we don't have any gaps in our timeline. And let's take a look. And let me actually turn this layer back on. Okay, so we've definitely made an improvement. It's hitting closer to that 10-second mark. And what we can do is trim the beginning and the end of these clips to make it match the 10-second length. So let's try doing that with this first one. And you know what? Let's start adding the effect, because what I need to keep in mind here is what my other version is doing because it's swiping through the outfit. So I need to figure out the pacing for that and have that match the other clone. So let's go over to Effect Controls, and actually, no, to Effects. So what you're gonna look for is Crop. So when you type this in, it'll come up under Video Effects and then Transform, and then you'll see the crop. So I'm gonna select this, click and drag it over to my clip, and now you'll see that this FX icon right here, this little box, has turned from yellow to green, and that's how you know you've applied an effect. So now if we go over to Effect Controls, you will see right here the crop has been added. Versus if we go to this one, you'll see there's no crop there, at least not yet, but we will add a crop to that one as well. So let's go back over to Effects, we'll drag in a crop, and we'll do the same thing for this last one. So now what I'm gonna do is go back in, and we're going to apply this crop. So let's go over to Effect Controls, and let's start cropping this in from the right. So I'm just gonna click and drag, and we'll go to about the midpoint, maybe something around there. So 48%, we'll start with that, and we can toggle it if we need to. So I'm going to scrub through this clip, and I'll just look out for anything that might get cut off, and that actually looks great. Nothing is getting cut off, so I think we will stick at a 48% for the right crop. Now, something you may notice is that there is a very obvious line going down the middle right now that shows that these are two separate clips. So something you can do to help to seamlessly blend these two clips together is apply this edge feather. So I'm just going to drag this to the right and pay attention to the middle, you will see that it's now being feathered out and it's not this harsh line anymore. The thing you do want to be careful about here though is if you feather it too much. So let's just go to 119 because why not? Take a look. Oh, you know what? It actually worked in this case. I was going to say take a look at my finger because it might start to fade out where my finger is at. So let me see if I can really max this out. Okay, there we go. Look at me and like really look at my jeans, right? Do you see how they're faded? Half of them is faded now and the other half looks normal. This is what you don't want. So don't feather it out too much. Do it just enough so that you're getting rid of that very obvious stark line. So I'm going to scale this back. We'll do, let's see, maybe like a 40. And let me scrub through again and let's see if my finger is being cut off or not. And it looks pretty good to me, so we'll keep it at a 40. So now you want to apply these same effects to the next two clips. So we're going to go over and we'll do the same thing. So for this one, for the right, we will do 48. And then the edge feather will do 40. And then same thing right here. So 48. And 40 for edge feather. All right, so now let's scrub through and let's take a look at the rest of the clips and see if my finger is being cut off or anything like that. So right here, looking good. And this one also looking good. So the next thing that we have going on here is that the lighting has changed. The lighting in the first clip right here that's on our first track does not match the lighting on the second one, and quite honestly, this is something that I see a lot on TikTok. A lot of people are filming their TikToks on their phones, they're not really using professional cameras, and that's totally okay. We're not going for Emmy Awards here, we're not trying to get Oscar nominated, it doesn't have to be top of the line editing here. TikTok has a pretty low standard when it comes to editing and production quality, so don't let this concern you too much. We can do some things to help to fix this though. So if we go over back to the beginning, I'm just going to choose this clip right here, this first one on our V2 track, and that's my clone wearing the jacket. And we are going to go over to color. So now within the Lumetri color panel, what you can do is start to adjust these settings to try and make this left half match the color over on the right. So what I like to do is toggle with the exposure. So let's just bring it down, minus 0.1. And what I'm looking at here is the ceiling. So I'm trying to get the ceiling color on the left to match the right. So a minus 0.2 looks pretty fine. Yes, you can still see the line, but again, it's for TikTok, it doesn't really matter. So we're gonna go over to this next one right here, and we will do the same thing. So pay attention to the ceiling up here. We're going to bring down the exposure. Do the same thing for this one, a minus 0.2. And then for this last one, same deal. So we'll toggle down exposure. I'm just curious, if we go down more, yeah, it's just way too much. So I think a minus 2 is a pretty safe bet. So now if we go through, and let's just do a quick scrub. There is definitely consistency between the clips on the left. Yes, they don't fully match the clip on the right, but that is a-okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is adjust the timing of the clips. So I'm going to go back to my workspace, and we want to make the clips up top match the length of this clip on the bottom. So let's go through and we'll try to make some adjustments to the in and out points, basically. So I'm going to go through and maybe I will start this clip around right here. So I'll just drag this over to shorten that clip and I'll bring it over. And let's take a look. What I'm looking for now is for my swiping motion to match the movement of me stepping out of frame. So let's take a look. Okay, that was actually too soon. So I'm going to bring that back. Just going to press Command C and let's take a look at this again. And still a little bit too quick, huh? Okay, I'm gonna move these over. We'll give ourselves some room to play with. And I'm just gonna drag this out. There's no specific timing going on here. I just want to get a feel for when I should be coming in. All right, that pacing matches better. So I'm gonna leave that as is, and then we'll drag over the second. Oh, don't want to cut off the first one. Drag this over. There we go. So now let's take a look at this one. Okay, that pacing is also great. I think I'm gonna cut it off here though. So I'll just scrub over, shorten that clip, and let's bring over this last one. Okay, we need to make some changes to the pacing here because it does not match. So let's take a look again, starting around here for the second one. Okay, next. So let's make another cut. Maybe we'll make a cut right here. So what I'm gonna do is press B on my keyboard, and you'll see that it has changed to this yellow bracket now instead of being red. And this is a tool that you can also access from up here. So if you just press and hold, you can bring that up. It is called the Ripple Edit tool. So basically what this allows you to do is, let me just go back to my timeline. Once you hover over on the end of your clip and you bring this over just like normal, instead of leaving a gap between your clips now, it's going to basically get rid of the gap. It'll bring over that clip and then the clip after it as well. So instead of you having to go in and do something like this, so I'm just pressing V, I'll bring this over. You see how now you have this gap? Usually what you would have to do is press in the space right here to select that gap and then press delete. But with Ripple Edit, you can just do that all in one go. So that makes editing quicker for sure. So we will do that. We'll bring this over and let's play with this timing a little bit more. So let's take a look at this. All right, so now I'm picking the outfit, and I do want this sass at the end to remain because who doesn't love some nice sass? So let's have this first clip come in a little bit sooner. So I will just drag this over, and maybe, just maybe, we can drag out this bottom clip because I'm hoping I stand there long enough to wait for this sassy moment to occur. And I do. Okay, cool. So that works. So now let's take a look at the whole thing. Sweet. Love it. So that is how you do a clone. It's really easy. Again, just make sure that when you are filming it, you leave enough space so that when you go to edit, you can have a pretty clean edit. And if lighting and stuff is important to you, just use manual settings. That way you can ensure that everything looks consistent and you have a cleaner looking edit. But again, if you don't, no worries. We're not trying to get awards here. We're just trying to make TikToks. So next, let's go to the next thing that we're gonna do, and this is a transition. So this is something that you've probably seen a lot on TikTok. It's just a transition. It'll go from one sort of clip like this to something like that. So like in this case, I'm pouring out this outfit and now I'm wearing the outfit. So let me pop into the chat because I do see some questions. Laura is asking, Shireen, what was the shortcut to cut the clip? So let me go back to the demo right here. So if you do want to cut your clip, what you can do is press C to bring up the blade tool. You can make a cut anywhere you want, like that. But if you do want to use that tool that I was talking about, again, you can access it from up here. You can just right or left click, do a long click. It'll bring this up. It is called the Ripple Edit tool. Or if you just press B on your keyboard, it'll bring that up. So now what will happen is if I go to here, for example, and I want to shorten the beginning of this clip, I want it to start at, say, this point. I'll just drag it over, and now it has snapped over to match where the other cut is. So you're not having this gap, like there's no gap like this in between that you have to go through and select and then press the gap and press delete. Just Ripple Edit, it'll take care of that for you. It's so cool. And let's see. I think there was another question. Oh, for the backward slash. Philip is asking, is it below the question mark or below the straight bar? So I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure everybody's keyword is different, but for me, it's right under the delete button. So hopefully that helps. All right, so let's go over to this outfit transition. So I'll show you, let's just do this from scratch, yeah? So let's go over to File, New, Sequence, and then I'm gonna select my custom preset right here for vertical, and I will call this Outfit Transition Demo, and I'll press OK. So now we're gonna go over to my project, and the sequence has been added right here, and what I wanna do is actually bring it up top to my sequences bin. And you'll notice I love being organized. Organization is key. When you are creating your projects, definitely make sure that you organize them out like this. So have your sequences and your footage, audio, etc. all in bins, because that way it'll just make it a lot cleaner and easier for you to access everything instead of having, you know, just everything in here all chaotic. So let's bring up our footage for this one. So we will open our outfit transition bin, and then within here you see I have some footage. So for this first one, I don't have the shoes on yet. You'll see I'm wearing socks, and this is because I was trying to get a feel for the framing and pacing, like how I should be walking in. So you'll see, like right here, I'm trying to figure out, okay, if I need to walk in, how will I look? Will I be fully in frame? At what point do I need to dump the bag? So I was like, okay, if I dump the bag here, what will I look like on camera? So I just filmed it just so I can see. So the next thing that I did was do it again, but with the shoes and with the purse and all that, because I figured out the framing and I was like, okay, we're good to go. So this was the real deal, and I've set in and out points, so I'm gonna bring this over to my timeline. So again, I'm just gonna hover over this icon right here, this little film strip, and bring this over to my timeline. And again, this one will bring up this same clip mismatch warning where it's saying that our clip does not match our sequence's settings. Now the reason for this one is because you'll notice over here for the frame rate, I actually filmed these clips all at 59.94 frames per second because I wanted the ability to slow down the clips if I wanted to. So in this case, I'm just gonna do keep existing settings. I will keep the 24 frames per second, but I will bring in this clip that is 59.94 frames per second. And I can slow it down on my timeline, no big deal. So again, I'm gonna press the backwards key. Now we know which one it is. Just to expand on my timeline a little bit, and you'll notice that right now, this clip has been imported a little bit weird. Like, why is it sideways? It's like that because when I filmed it on my camera, that's just how it's gonna be. So what you have to do is go over to your effect controls. So here within this top part right here, you're gonna go to rotation, and then just depending on which way you filmed it on camera, and when I say camera, I'm meaning like my actual mirrorless camera, not an iPhone. That's why it's filmed like this. We're gonna change the rotation. It'll be either 90 or minus 90, just depending on which way you had your camera. So I believe for me it was minus 90. Let's try this out. Yep, there we go. And just like that, it's looking all good now. So that's how you do that. And what we're gonna do now is go over and bring in the next clip. So if I scrub through here, you'll see this is the walking in part. And the next thing I want to do is bring in that next shot right here where I will pop up into this new outfit. So I have two options here and I will drag them in and y'all can help me pick which one to choose. So I'm going to drag in this one, and again for this one I'm just going to put it on V2 for now. And then with this last one, I'll just stack it right on top. I like to do this when I'm editing and I have a few options to go through. I'll just stack them on top of each other and just play the whole thing and do it multiple times just to get a feel for which one I like. So let's press backward again, bring everything into our timeline. And I'm actually gonna drag these over because what I wanna do first is make some cuts to this first clip right here. So What I'm looking for here is the end of the action when I pour out the skirt and the top and all that. So you'll see it goes out of frame right here. And I don't want to cut it here, I actually want to cut it before. Because something you want to keep in mind when you're editing things like this is, where is your eye focusing to? So in this case, our focus is more or less on this blue skirt, right? So your eye is following that, and if I cut to here, and then I bring in, for example, one of these clips, and let me actually change the rotation, give me one sec, I'll just go over here, do -90, and then let me do the same thing for this one. Alright, so now, if you take a look at this, and let me actually make a quick cut. So the movement's starting around here. So I'll just bring this over. So now if you look at this, the skirt's going out of frame right there. And then I pop up. And it's a little bit jarring, right? Your eye doesn't really have anything to follow. But if we were to cut this, where this skirt position, where I'm pouring it out, matches the position of this jumping up transition right here, it'll make it a bit more seamless. So let's try doing that. So skirt is roughly in the middle of the screen, right? And you want to align this with this one. So here, the skirt's roughly at the middle of the screen. So we will set this as the end of our clip. So again, just pressing B, and I'm gonna bring this over. And let's take a look at this. So something like that. And I'll just press play so we can see it in real time. All right, much smoother, right? Little pro tip when you're doing things like that. So now let's do the same thing to the second clip right here, our second option. So again, for this one, we want to cut the beginning of this to around the middle of the screen, like when the skirt's in the middle. So something around like that could work. Let's see what that looks like. All right, cool. Love it. Much more smooth. So now let's figure out which one we want to use. So I will play from around here. So for this one, take a look at the bottom of the frame. What I'm looking for here is my full outfit being in the frame. And right now the shoes are cut off, whereas in this first shot, you can see my shoes, right? And I do want consistency here. So let's take a look at this clip underneath. So I'm just gonna hide the second layer. And for this one, right off the bat, I can already see that my shoes are in the shot, so that is good. But I am further back than I am in this first clip right here. So right now I'm on this first tile, whereas in this shot, I'm a little bit further back at the end of that tile. And that might not be a big deal. Again, like, it's TikTok, doesn't really matter. But for me, since I am trying to keep this a bit more consistent, maybe we'll go with the second one. Let me know in the chat what you think. Should we do this V2 track or the V1 track? And let me bring up V2 again. So V2, the shoes are cut off, but my placement is closer to where I was standing in this clip right here. Let me play that again. But in the V1 track, you can see full body, but I'm further back. I'll just play that again. Let me know in the chat which one you think is smoother. I'm kind of leaning towards the one where my shoes are cut off, only because my placement is more similar to where I was standing in this first one. So let's take a look at that again. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick with that. So I will just get rid of this first one, and I will bring this down. And now I'll just scrub through. It looks more or less something like this. And I do want to make note of how you can slow down a clip. So in this case, I don't think I'm going to end up slowing it down. I don't know why. I tend to do this a lot where I will film in 59 frames per second, 59.7, just thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to slow this all down. And then I go to edit and I usually never do it. I should probably stop doing that because it takes up a lot of space too. But if you do want to learn how you can slow down a clip, you can just right click and then go to speed duration, and you can bring it down to 40%. So now it has been slowed down, and if we take a look at this, you can see my steps are slower, it's more dramatic, which honestly looks pretty cool. But for this, I think I'm just gonna leave it the way it is, just normal. Something else you can do is, let me go back to my project panel. So let's see, this is clip 27. So let's say we want to slow this down. You can also right click and then go to, where is it? There's a way to interpret footage and I am blanking. I forgot which one it was, but there is a way to do it in here as well. If it comes to me, we'll come back to this. Just know that is also an option. All right, let's see. We've got some questions coming up in the chat. So Godwin is asking, how did you get the first layer clip to show up on the 3 new clips? Let's see, on the 3 new clips. Oh, okay, let's go back. I think this was in reference to the first one, right? So is this what you're talking about? If you are, all I did was I dragged this clip over to my first layer. So for example, let's just pretend this is this one. I'm just gonna drag this over to this first layer right here. You'll see we have this clip. And then let's say we wanna bring in this one. I'll just bring this over, and now I'm gonna insert that onto the second track by just dragging it onto that second track. So I'll do that again. Let's say, for example, I want this one to be next. I'm just dragging this over to the second layer on my timeline, and that's how I'm stacking those clips. So hopefully that helped. Just gonna get rid of that. Godwin is asking also, did you use some type of mask to mix the first clip? Yeah, so what I did was I applied a crop, and if you watch the replay, you can figure out exactly what I did step by step. I do want to get to these other effects, so just make sure to catch the replay. We'll go through all that. Let's see. Creative Christie is saying, you're right, the positioning of your body looks smoother when you're in the first. Erica is also saying shoes cut off. And I believe there was another one in here also saying yes. So yeah, I'm glad we're all on the same page. I think it makes it smoother, right? Like when you have the transition, where did it go? This one? Yeah. So when you have it just in that same reference, same plane, it looks smoother, especially to the eye. So next thing we're gonna do is go over to Captions. This one, if you haven't tried it yet, it is so amazing. You'll need to try this feature. Let me know in the chat if you've tried the new Captions workflow in Premiere yet or not, because if not, I'm gonna blow your mind. So you'll see right now we do have audio with this clip, and we'll just play through it real quick just so you can get a feel for what I'm saying and all of that. So let me just press play. Have you ever used filters on your camera lens? Check this out. This is the Linear Prism FX filter from Prism Lens FX. You screw it onto your lens and it rotates to create these really cool effects. Here's how I use them for beauty product photography. Which one is your fave? Have you ever— So let's say we want to add captions to this. Before, what you would have to do is go through and go into graphics, add some new text in there. It was just a pretty tedious process, right? Now, if you just go over into the Captions workflow, or the workspace rather, this box will come up on the left. So you have an option to transcribe your sequence, create a new caption track, or import captions from file. What we want to do first, in our case, is transcribe our sequence. So I will press transcribe sequence, and this box will come up. It'll say create transcript. So now you have all these different options, right? So you could either do the audio on the mix, audio 1. If you do have multiple tracks in here, which I don't right now, that's why it's not giving me those options, you could also just choose those individual tracks. You can also choose your language. So mine's going to be English, but there's all these other languages in there as well. And you can also pick all these other things, but honestly, we're just going to stick with the basic settings and we will press transcribe. So we will just give this a sec, and it's pretty fast. You'll see. It's processing, it's doing its thing. Usually it'll take about half the time of the length of your video. So like this video is what, 14 seconds? It'll take roughly 7 seconds or so. So we'll just give this a few seconds. It's doing its thing. And there we go. Just like that, it has transcribed what I was saying in the audio. So what you can do from here is go through and read it and make sure that all the words are right, because sometimes, just depending on if I'm speaking too fast or whatever, it won't always be correct and accurate, so we can go through and make some changes if we need to. So you can double click in here and then make any adjustments. So let me just read through this. Have you ever used filters on your camera lens? Check this out. This is a linear prism effects filter. So this one should be FX, filter from prism lens FX, and then this one I'm actually gonna make this not caps. We'll do like that. I believe this says you screw it onto your lens, so we'll do you screw it onto your lens and it rotates to create these really cool effects. Here's how I used, I think it was used, or was it used? Let's take a listen. FX. You screw it onto your lens and it rotates to create these really cool effects. Here's how I use them for beauty product photography. Yeah, it was used. And you'll notice as I'm playing this back, it'll also highlight the words in here, so it makes it really easy for you to be able to know what you need to change and just keep track of the words as you're playing them. So let's play it from here. Product photography. Which one is your fave? Okay, cool. And I think I'm gonna change fave to FAV. So we'll do that. So now from here, we can start to create our captions. So to do that, you're just gonna create captions by pressing this button right here. And just like before, it'll give you this window with options. So what we can do is make some changes. Right here, you'll see you have this option to change the type of subtitle, and we're just gonna leave it at default because the other ones are like for broadcast and stuff like that. Again, we're just doing TikTok, it's not that serious. So we're gonna leave it to subtitle default. And for the format, again, same options right here. And then you can also do a style if you have one. We don't currently have one, so we're gonna leave it at none. And then you can change the maximum length in characters. So I'll just leave these all as is. Lines, I typically like to do single. This is like personal preference, whatever you prefer. I like to do single, so I'm gonna press create and we will let Premiere do its thing. Look how fast that was. And look how fast, like look at the timeline right now. There's now this subtitle layer that's been added and all of our subtitles are just on there just like that. For this first one, I'm going to bring this back just so it matches the beginning of the clip. And if you do want to go through and make any sort of modifications, you can. So for example, let's say you want this to be a little bit shorter. You'll just drag this in like that. And then you can drag out this second one. You know, you can just play with the timing and all that. Let's just take a listen real quick and look for where these cuts are being placed. Have you ever used filters on your camera lens? Check this out. This is the Linear Prism FX filter from Prism Lens FX. So it's spot on. Premiere is so good at this. It makes editing so much easier, especially if you're doing captions. And if you're doing content on TikTok that would benefit from captions, I highly recommend trying this out because it'll just speed up your workflow so much. I know there is a captions feature on TikTok, but the reason why I love using this is because I like to have the ability to cross-post things. So if I want to take this piece of content and post it on Instagram as an Instagram reel, and then also on YouTube as a YouTube Shorts, I have the ability to do that with these captions baked in. I don't have to go through and do all this extra work. So love using this. You can also change the font and all that stuff. So if you go over to text, for example, you can change this. You can change, let's just change it real quick. Let's do Montserrat, why not? And we can do bold. And there we go. So if you have your clip selected, the subtitle one, and you can make changes on that. So for example, you'll see right here, it's not making changes, but here it is because we have this one selected. So you can also add things like a background if you want to. You can mess with the opacity and the padding on the sides. You can curve it if you want to, which is pretty cool. And you can change all these colors as well. So let's say you want to change the fill to that classic yellow, that like yellow-orange shade that's used for captions. You can do something like this. And you're good to go. So I'm going to get rid of the background. We don't want that for this. And let's turn this into a preset. So over here in track style, you'll see right now it's set to none. What we're going to do is make this yellow text a preset. So I'm just going to call this yellow, and I will press OK. So now you'll see the track style. It's a preset that we created, this yellow one. Before it was none, now it's yellow. So if I go to none, you can do that, or you can also do the yellow one. And it's also been applied to the rest of our clips right here, which is pretty cool. Saves a lot of time. So that's a really cool way to use captions. Definitely try this out. Jay is saying, thanks for showing the captions and transcription features. So cool. Much easier now than in the previous Premiere Pro versions when it was manual and not as automated. Totally. It's just so much quicker. I love it. I love it so much. So the last thing that I wanted to show is auto reframe. So let's say you have a YouTube video, and let me just pull something up. So let's say you have a YouTube video like this, right? And you want to turn this into a TikTok, a vertical video. A really easy way to do that is by right-clicking on your sequence right up here, and then going down to auto reframe sequence. Now it'll bring up this box, and you can give this a name. So by default, it'll call this YouTube Unboxing 9x16. I'm gonna just change this to TikTok, just so I'm clear what this is being used for. You can also change the target aspect ratio. So right now it's set to 9x16 vertical. You can also do square 1x1, you can do vertical 4x5, or you can do a custom, or you can even do horizontal. I'm gonna keep this at vertical 9x16 because that is the aspect ratio that we want for TikTok. And you can also select motion tracking. You can do slower motion or faster motion. I'm just gonna leave it at default. And then the last option you have is to nest your clips. I don't want to nest my clips, so I'm just gonna press create, and boom. Look how easy that was. It has been auto reframed to this vertical aspect ratio with little to no effort. And this is a really great way to repurpose your YouTube videos or just any sort of content that's in a different aspect ratio and make it into a TikTok. So now from here, you'll see this is about 2 minutes long, and a TikTok is usually anywhere from like 5 seconds to, I think the max is currently 3, depending on your account. Like some people have 3, some people have 60 seconds, but on average, they're pretty quick. I would say they're around 10, 15 seconds. So what you can do from here is go through and start to make some cuts and make this a little bit shorter. So I will just play through right now. And actually what I want to do is get rid of the audio, because if I was to post this as a TikTok, I would just have some audio and I wouldn't have my voice in the background. Right now, I'm just explaining what the product is, I think. So let me play this. We've got this brand new baby. Yeah, so I don't want that for TikTok. So I'm gonna right click, and then what I'm gonna do is press unlink. So now you can select these 2 tracks separately before they were linked together. So I'm gonna click the audio and then press delete, and now we've gotten rid of it. So let's go through and let's just take a look, and we'll see where we want to make cuts. Now, if you do want to speed through while you're watching this, you can press the L key on your keyboard, and now you're watching this at 2 times speed. You can press it again, it'll get even faster. And this is a really great way to look through footage, because sometimes we just don't want to spend the time looking at the same thing over and over for longer than we need to. So this is something that I like to do. So let's go through, and I'm thinking this part's not that interesting. We don't need to see this being ripped off. Let's just start right here. So I'm gonna press C to bring up the blade tool, and I'm gonna make a cut, and I'll press V, and I'll just get rid of this. And let's keep going. And let's say we want to speed this up maybe. So we'll take this whole chunk right here where I'm showing this product and we'll speed it up. So again, I'll press C, bring up the blade tool, and we will do something like maybe a 200%. So now we have just sped that up. And for TikTok, I think that's pretty slow. So we're gonna do maybe 600%. And now it's something like this. Yeah, I think that's better for TikTok. People really don't have an attention span on TikTok. And let's say, honestly, you could just leave it at that maybe. Just leave it at that. Maybe we'll do this one too. So we'll do that. Press C to make a cut. Pressing V to select this tail end. Press delete. And then I'm going to right click, go back to speed duration, and we'll make this also 600%. I'll just bring these together, and I'll select these and drag these over to the beginning. So now, it's something like this. It's quick, it's keeping your attention for TikTok. You could even add some text on screen if you wanted to. So let's go and select the type tool, and we can add a title. We could do unboxing, something like that. And if you want to make some additional changes, you can go over to the graphics workspace and then go over to edit, and it'll bring up these tools again where you can change the font and all of that. So let's change this to Montserrat Bold, and I'm going to align this to the center. So here I'm going to choose align vertically, and then here I'm going to choose align horizontally, and now it's right in the center. And this is a cool way to add titles to your TikToks. So something I've noticed is some videos in the beginning, maybe the first 3 seconds or so, they have this title on screen. So this is a really great way to do that and to be able to customize your fonts. TikTok only gives you a limited amount of fonts. Here you can choose whatever you want, which is fabulous. So I'm going to trim this down to about 3 seconds or so, and let's just take a look at this. Love it. And if you do want to change the auto reframe settings, you can do it right here within the effect controls panel. So just make sure effect controls is selected. If for whatever reason you're not seeing this, you can go to window and then bring up all these different panels. So you can just bring this up by selecting effect controls, and it'll have a check mark next to it if it has been selected. So here within effect controls, down here you'll see we have all the settings for auto reframe. So you can go through and change these. So let's say maybe you want to change the scale. You can scale it up if you want to. You can reframe the offset. So let's say maybe for whatever reason you want it to be positioned like this, which I would not do. But you know, you can change it if you want to, which is cool. So I'm going to bring this back to default. And to do that, I'm going to press this icon right here, that little curly arrow. That is to reset your parameters, and that'll bring it back to where it was in the beginning. And let's take a look at this reframe scale. Maybe it looks cool framed up like that. No, I think I'm going to leave it where it was. So I'm going to bring this back to default as well. So I will reset my parameter just like that. And that's really all there is to it. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is something I've been seeing a lot on my TikTok feed. I don't know if you've seen this, let me know if you have. It's just like desaturated, underexposed videos. For whatever reason, they're just super trendy right now, especially for vlogs and content like that. So I'm going to show you how to create that effect in Premiere Pro. It's really quick and easy. So let's go over to this outfit transition one. What you need to do is create an adjustment layer. So I have one selected already, or created rather. To do that, you can just go down here and press adjustment layer, and it'll make that for you. I have it, so I'm going to drag it over. Basically, this allows you to apply an effect to the clips below it. So I'm going to go to color and just drag down my exposure. And then I'm going to scale up this effect with my scale controls, and boom, just like that. Now you have this underexposed, vibey, moody aesthetic sort of video. It's really easy to create in After Effects. So that's really all there is to it. Make sure to stay tuned because next we have Draw This in Your Style and Office Hours, and of course make sure to check out Adobe Max, and I'll see you there. Bye everyone!